This is End User Talk, and in this series, we're sharing real stories. From first time riders to seasoned road warriors, we talk freedom, fear, culture, and community through the lens of two, three, or four wheels. Motorcycles aren't just machines, they're mirrors. They show us who we are when nobody's watching. I'm Jamila. This is End User Talk, presenting MotoZoombie, a rider's POV. Hello, and welcome to the End User Talk podcast. This is Jamila, your host, and as usual, we have another interesting guest to join on the podcast in this series where we're sharing journeys of motorcycle enthusiasts from beginner to experienced. And today we have Twigz or Isiah. And well, first off, I want to thank you for joining or accepting my invitation to be a guest on the podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. And yourself?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Or do you mind giving us a brief introduction?
Hey, you guys. My name is Twigs. You can find me on all platforms at Twigs on Two Wheels or on Instagram at Who Is Twigs. I'm a motorcycle content creator. I mostly focus on long distance riding and cross country trips. And I've been riding for about a year and a half now, with just about under 40,000 miles under my belt and about 9 states so far.
How exactly did you get started riding motorcycles?
I got started October of 2024 when I took my MSF course. I knew it was something I wanted to do for a while. I just didn't pull the trigger on it, bills and, just it not being the right time. Um, Having a car was more of a priority than buying a motorcycle. But when I finally just wanted to go for it, I made having a motorcycle my only means of transportation. I just, you know, said the hell with having a car, and I decided to buy a motorcycle helmet and get some gear. I saved up again. A few months later, I scheduled the MSF course. Um, and that October of 2024, I took that MSF course. And then about 2 months later, I went ahead and got my first motorcycle, November 21st, 2024. I bought an Iron 883 with 8,241 miles on it. And just yesterday, I hit the 30,000 mile marker on that bike. So I put around 22,000 miles roughly. A lot of ups and downs with that bike, a lot of learning lessons, and a lot of good memories made on that bike, honestly. That I don't know if it's something I could ever truly get rid of. People say, you get tired of your bike and you're ready to sell it. And I don't think an Iron 883 is something, um, you know, you could be any age, any size, boy or girl. An Iron 883, it gets a lot of shit for being like a quote unquote a girl's bike. But honestly, that bike, 50 horsepower is all you need. It can get up to 100. It's not really a fast bike, but it can do it. Those bikes are bulletproof, and I suggest if you are getting into riding and you looking to get into riding and you want a Harley, they're cheap. You could find one for 3 grand. That's how I bought mine, my first Harley, for 3 grand. Iron 883, those Sportsters, man.
You brought up a good point there. A lot of times people may not know or be aware of what bike is the best bike for them to start on. Most people are familiar with sports bikes. So a lot
Yeah.
of people's journeys start going the sport bike route. And even in that family or in that category of bikes, you don't know. You mentioned power, so everybody wants to start out going fast, and some people are intrigued by doing the tricks and the racing. But when you get out of the sport bike arena, if you will, it's kind of, um, you don't know which bike should I get, because if you're a young person like yourself, you don't want to get what's considered the old man bike. You know what I mean? the traditional touring bike that looks like something that's for a much an older man, I should say, or your grandfather or your dad. You still kind of want to look trendy. You want to still look cool. So there's a lot of things to consider when you are entering this space, like what kind of bike to get. You mentioned taking the motorcycle safety course. I did as well, and I think it's great for you to have access to a motorcycle and people who are riding who are willing to try to help you learn and get introduced. But I think we all need to do it the right way. And I believe I saw you do a video and talking about your experience and some of the ups and downs as you've mentioned about that. What would your advice be to someone, regardless of age group, on the best way to start?
Well, like you said, MSF course, that's the best way to go. And it's funny, quite funny enough, it still doesn't prepare you fully for what's out there on that road. You know, endless possibilities. You know, that at the end of the day, there's no guarantee that you will ever make it home when you swing a leg over that bike and you accept that risk and you know that what comes with this, you know. And as much as um as much as you practice and you practice and you practice, like I said, there's no guarantee. And and accepting that risk and accepting the danger in that is the biggest thing to prepare yourself for. And to not let your family talk you out of it. Don't let your mom, don't let people put that fear in your head because you've already accepted that you know what comes with this. Whether you've lost someone to it, a family member to it, whether you've lost a friend to it, it happens. And and once you start and you start riding with people and you start your journey, you will lose people along the way. This is not a game. This is a actual sport. These are people get paid to do this around tracks and that's and the thing about it is I didn't want to go the sport bike route and I'm glad I didn't. Because I can't guarantee that I'd be here my first year of riding. As crazy as I started,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of mistakes that I started early off. I'm glad I started on something a lot smaller, a lot slower, you know, and a lot more forgiving because a lot of these machines, you know, people feel like they need to go out and they need to get the latest, greatest, the fastest machine, you know, whether it's a sport bike or a Harley, touring, whatever category. People feel like they need speed, they need to keep up, you need to learn how to control the machine first, you know, and that's why I say you'll never grow out of an Iron 883 because, you know, it's like there's still so much to know. I haven't fully mastered my touring bike, let alone my Sportster. And I went and bought a second bike 8 months into riding. And I just knew that I wanted to do long distance riding. That's why. And it's an easier way. You don't need super like a bunch of practice to like you would to do wheelies or get on the track and do 180 miles around a circle like track riding on a sport bike. You really just need a lot of heart and endurance and just willing to get out there and ride basically in a straight line. A lot of these interstates are just pretty much straight, and prepare yourself for weather and different hot rain and heat and plan your gas stations. So when I first did got into it, I just knew I found out about the Iron Butt Association randomly, and I wanted to do 1,000 mile day, and I did it on my Sportster, and that's what got me into that whole long distance riding thing. I knew, and it kind of corrected my behavior for as reckless as I was riding, because I started riding with my girl on the back, you know. I
Mm-hmm.
started a lot of two up riding, and I would say through that, um, the responsibility that and and knowing that second chances aren't given. You can have life changing injuries. You know, from one mistake, just
Mm-hmm.
doing too much.
That's right.
Feeling
That's right.
that adrenaline you get from twisting that throttle, and you feel that torque, and you love it. I know, and I understand, but you know, you gotta still realize that now you have a life on the back of this bike, and you have to be a little bit more responsible. And I feel like um, I just went through a lot of different stages in my first 6 months of riding to where I got into three different very close calls. I got into one bad accident and like two or three fender benders. And it was just like all for me not first going too fast and not knowing how to brake properly. Second would be just having too much like ego. I'd randomly see a sport bike and off into the distance. Oh, let me catch up to him. Why? I don't know. It's just having that and being young, just being young, and not really having that discipline and remembering that ride your own ride. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to get to our destination.
Right. I think you bring out so many great points. We do have to learn how to respect one, the power of that machine. We have to respect the road, because that road, yeah, you've got straightaways, you've got curves, you've got gravel, you've got dirt. There's just in the weather plays a lot into our performance as well. Outside of just your ability, your knowledge, your experience, your willingness to um, try to improve. The term or the saying "practice makes perfect." I heard someone say you're never going to be a perfect motorcyclist. You're never going to be perfect in if you look at that, engage you perfect in anything. But what you can be is improved. You can be better. You can be mindful. Um, but there are so many facets to riding motorcycles. It's yeah, sure. There's the speed. There's the confidence that comes along with it, and sometimes you can be too overconfident. But maturity, you said within this short time frame you've matured a lot. You've made the mistakes. You've made the mistakes. You have been blessed to overcome some close calls, and I'm not going to do that again. I want to be able to be here, enjoy this, and continue to take these journeys. And that's another thing as far as your decision to go out and as they say, ground pound. um what what are some of the things that you keep with you as far as on your journeys, on your trips, and what you take with you, what you have to have? Is it something that you consistently have to have regardless to the distance you're going, or um are there specific places that you're going where you need certain types of things? So, how does one or how do you pack on your trips?
It depends on, for one, how big the trip is. Are we doing like a 2 3 day trip? Are we doing like a 24 hour turnaround? Are we gonna? Is there gonna be some camping involved? What bike am I taking? Like that all depends because I have both bikes. Set my touring bike and my Sportster, which is set up for touring. But uh, that all depends because there's certain places like when I went camping in Slab City, I would have never took my touring bike there. It's just too much. It's too heavy to be going through all that dirt and everything. But the Sportster was perfect. It was light enough. I was able to get where I needed to, and I just couldn't imagine doing that on that big of a bike. Like I said, I'm still learning. I have less than a year on that new bike. I've done a lot of miles on that trip on the 2 3 trips that I've taken on that bike, but I still need I still need some seat time on that bike in the parking lot and just in the real world experience to really get my confidence up on a level to where I would take that camping and get out there in the dirt and different atmospheres. So I would say if you were if I was to take my touring bike, must haves would be um okay, you're gonna need a tire patch kit for sure. I always bring my air pump, my portable air pump. I bring a few power banks. Always got to have a few portable power banks on hand so you could charge whatever devices. Mostly, I'll keep them in like my tour pack. I'll charge some extra cameras, or I'll charge my phone, for example. Uh, I always keep um, a 2 gallon fuel bladder. Now, when you run out of gas, most people only have, when they do get help or somebody willing to pull over, most people only have a Gatorade bottle or a water bottle. They don't have something big enough, to really get you out, get you somewhere. And if you're pulled over, you're stuck 35 miles, 40 miles from the nearest gas station. It's so sad to say, a Gatorade bottle isn't going to get you to the next gas stop, but a 2 gallon fuel bladder that you can just roll up and have tucked away in your saddlebag. If you ever run out of gas and somebody just so happens to stop, they could take that fuel bladder, fill it up with 2 gallons of gas, and come bring it back to you. You got 2 gallons of gas in your tank to get you to the next gas stop. I keep that regardless whether I take either bike. I use it more so for the Sportster because to where I have a 6 gallon tank on my touring bike. I'm able to get around 200, 230 miles before having to stop on gas. I stopping for gas every 85, 90 miles with a 3 gallon tank on my Sportster. So I normally just fill up my 2 gallon fuel bladder and my 3 gallon tank, and then I'll strap my fuel bladder on the back of my luggage rack of my Sportster. And if I need to stop for gas and I don't want to stop at a gas station, I'll stop on the side of the interstate and I'll fill up with 2 more gallons and I know I'm good for another roughly 60, 70 miles. So that's a must have. Uh, I would also say bring rain gear. Um, for rain gear, you're always going to get wet. So I don't care if you spend $200, $300 on the rain gear. You're gonna if it's pouring down hard enough, you're gonna get wet. You're gonna get wet. So don't stress too much about the brand, about the price. Find what you can afford and go ahead and just just go for it. Because at the end of the day, if you're scared of a little rain, it should be the least of your worries. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd say you got to have some type of motorcycle comms if you're taking these trips. Um, find what's affordable. I've seen some. You don't have to go with Cardo. You know, you can use. There's some other brands out there that I'll share with you that you can share with some of the people out here listening that I found that that work just as well and they're not as expensive. But you need some type of a way of answering phone calls or just listening to music because it can get boring on a road trip. Uh, I'd say bring you some type of electrolyte, either just Gatorade. Don't rely too much on Red Bull. For the most part, keep as long as you got a tool bag of things fit your bike. I wouldn't say overpack with tools, but if you know a certain thing goes loose on your bike, bring it and bring that tool so you just in case it goes loose, you can tighten that thing back up. Uh, and now, if you're going on longer road trips, like I said, then bring the tools that you need for an oil change because you can perform your own oil change. You could stop, grab 3 quarts of oil, and swap out the oil if you need to swap out your primary fluid as well. A lot of these are just 10 millimeter wrenches and Allen wrenches. It does flatheads. It really to do an oil change is simple and you can do it on the ground. So that doesn't take up much space itself. So if you're going on a 5-6 thousand mile road trip and you know you're gonna have to change your oil, then make sure you're packing that. Um, yeah, like I said, that's a hard question because it really depends. Like if you're camping, I've been camping several times, so I've overpacked. I've not packed enough. Oh man, camping that's a whole nother story.
Mm-hmm.
I brought too big of a tent. I brought a tent that was just no good, too small, and I bought a tent that was just so horrible. I didn't even pack it with me. We threw it away at the end of the morning, and we just went home without it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like definitely um, invest in if you're gonna do some motorcycle camping. I haven't made the purchase yet, but I'd invest in a good, setup, a tent setup, something. And I've seen a few brands in there, but they're expensive, and I'm not like into motorcycle camping like that to go
Right.
$500 on a tent. But it's the whole setup that I've seen. It's like ideal for the whole motorcycle camping thing. But yeah, that whole idea in itself of like motorcycle camping, that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother topic conversation of how I got into wanting to do that.
Right.
Why
Right.
I have no friends to do it with but my girl. She's the only seems like the only one that's down enough to go out there and
That's cool. That's cool. Well, I think the information you did provide was, it's a start, right? I'm based in Texas, so in May, GQ is having his Unleash the Peace event,
right.
and I watched all of the YouTubers or most of the YouTubers that went to last year's, and I was like, man, that looks so cool. I'd love to go. So I had another fellow YouTuber invite me and say, hey, I'll ride with you. I appreciate you for sharing, and I will remember the tire patch kit. And I have been looking at a bladder, but I was always wondering, um, do I fill it up and then store it, or and you?
How that works is you just have it stored, and when you know you're gonna go on a long stretch, because there's stretches in road trips, you'll be surprised when it'll say 100 miles into your next service station.
Mm,
And if you're and some there's been instances where I'm like, oh no, hold on. And I've had to get on the exit, go on the other side of the freeway, ride about 15, 20 miles back to the next gas station because I'm like, I
right,
know I'm not gonna make it past this 100 mile stretch.
right,
But that comes in part of planning your gas stations accordingly, and at least, knowing your route and
right,
know uh when there's going to be some dead zones or some stretches to where you won't have many gas stations. It depends on what interstate you're taking. A lot
right,
a lot of these interstates have gas stations and food on every 70 to 100, miles.
right,
But there certain areas, Wyoming and Missouri. I don't know. Like a lot of these places, you'll get some stretches where it's just nothing but farmland,
mm-hmm.
horses, and yeah, you're like, when am I gonna see the next town?
Hmm.
Like,
That's definitely Texas because you
yeah,
will hit
really?
stretch it, man.
I've never
Yes,
been to Texas.
you should definitely, if you ever get an opportunity. Um, as a matter of fact, there are a couple of YouTubers that I find that are also in California, and they take that trek from California over to Florida.
Yeah.
And I remember one was saying, Texas, it's like, I cannot wait until I get completely out of Texas
Oh,
because it's
I hear it
so
takes
long.
it takes about a day to ride through, fully ride through Texas.
Yes, and it's just, there are stretches like you just said where there's just nothing. It's nothingness. You're not
Yeah,
seeing animals, you're not seeing
yeah.
you're not seeing towns or anything. And it's just, and it gets weary. It's like, where in the heck, when am I going to get to my next stop, or when am I going to start seeing a little civilization, something?
Right.
So I definitely get that. So, and and I'm sure it's a lot more tedious being on a motorcycle. Motorcycle
Ride in
riding.
the dark. No,
Yeah.
that no, I tell you, like you'll be happy when you see another car. You'll just be like, hey, let me get behind you and just ride behind you for a little while. I've been by myself out here on this
Mm-hmm.
long stretch of road,
It's a
and we just
lonely journey.
ride and it's pitch black dark, and there's nothing on this road, and you get worried, and you're just like, all right, at least if he hits something like a cow or
Mm,
something, I'm far enough behind him
right.
to just brake, and I'm not going to take. So I'm gonna
Right.
ride behind this car for a few hundred miles or
Man,
whenever.
I'm telling you, it's
I I tell you when we were coming back from South Dakota, we left Needles Eye Tunnel in South Dakota at around 7 p.m. trying to make it back to Colorado Springs, our hotel. We didn't get back until 2 a.m. and we rode the whole time around 7 hours in the dark.
oh man.
Just trying to get back, and I tell you, it took forever to get to Interstate 25. As soon as I got there, I knew I was home because it was lights
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
was 5 lanes and it wasn't a 2 lane little
Yes.
and
Right.
and I could finally I'm like, okay, I'm around other cars. Like, man, it was a lonely stretch of road to where I tell you, it was just me and my girl on the bike, and we were
Right.
riding in pitch black dark. There
Oh
wasn't
my
any
gosh.
lights. It was just the only my headlight was the only thing, and you'll see a couple trucks passing the other way every now and then. But I tell you, for almost an hour and a half, 2 hours, um, just me playing some music, just just hoping when am I gonna get to the next town, and you'll creep up on a town every now and then, but those towns they're so shallow, and
Right.
um, they I don't know what to describe them as. They'll have a gas station and a few buildings, and then off into the distance they'll have like a few roads, and they'll lead to like people's property that has huge lands and stuff. Um, there's a town called Lusk in Wyoming. We stopped there. Um, Towns like that where it's just you get a sense of like how do people live in such rural areas? I'm a city boy,
Right.
so like
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's part of traveling and getting out there too. Only being from Oakland, California, not it's the Bay Area. It's such a thriving place, like where it's just a bunch of skyscrapers and a lot going on in the Bay Area. To just travel and see other parts of the world, it's always been a goal for me, you know. And I never thought I'd do it on two wheels. I never thought, when I first got into riding, I never thought, I was gonna just jump into touring or even go traveling, when I first got into riding or thinking of it, I was looking at Honda Groms, Honda Navis. I was looking at little mopeds, something a scooter, something I could just get to work. I was just needed something reliable and cheap
Right.
to get me back and forth to work. And I was tired of spending $2,200 on a car on Facebook,
Yeah.
and then it only lasts me 3 4 months, and then I something be wrong with it to where oh, you're gonna have to spend all this money. Well, that's more than what I'm willing to pay to keep it. So I'm gonna just junk it and get what I can for it. And I was tired of going through that loop, and I just needed something, right? And I bought that bike for $3,000, and you can't find a car for $3,000 with 8,000 miles on it.
Mm-mm. That's worth anything.
Yeah. So this bike, it's a 15-year-old bike. It's a 15-year-old Sportster, and I checked it out. And um, yeah, this dude, he had a bunch of bikes in his garage, and he originally bought the Sportster for his wife, but his wife dropped it. She didn't want nothing to do with it after she dropped it. She rode around the parking lot a few times, and she left it alone. It had been sitting in the garage for a few years, and he wanted to sell it for some extra money. Originally, he wanted like 3,800, 4 grand or whatever, but I talked him down to three. It had some dry rot on it, had a dent on the tank. It had some bent levers that I didn't see on the picture. We didn't talk about, but he took the 3 grand. His wife didn't was like, hey, just take it. And um I just so happened to luck up on a very reliable bike. This I've been everywhere on this bike, and I I can't say I've had too much trouble keeping it running and keeping it going, other than it's mandatory oil changes and every 3,000 miles, just doing an oil change. It's been getting me places, man. I'll tell you that.
Right. And it's so, I mean, everything that you've done there's everything you've done is so ambitious to me in the sense of, like you said, you know what, I need something reliable, dependable. I'm not trying to break the bank. I need something to just kind of get me around town, to and from work, and those little things that you do. And I mean, you're going through the same rat race that most of us go through with vehicles. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's great to have a car. You need a car. You need transportation. If you're trying to get beyond relying on public transportation, and depending on where you are, you may not have public transportation. You may not have someone to get you to and from. Everybody's so busy. You know what I mean? So it's like your options are to go try to see what can I do? And I don't think most people, I have to say, even myself, I don't think I ever thought that a motorcycle would be that form of transportation for me. In my younger days, I never thought about that. Sure, I saw people riding them, whether it be a scooter, or an actual, more powerful motorcycle, whether it be a sport bike or touring or cruiser. Um, I never saw that in my line of sight or my purview. But I mean, you're going through things that I believe the average person can relate to. And the other ambitious aspect of this is you've taken on something that you've never done before. Um, you're repairing. You're doing your own repairs. Getting familiar with what you can do versus taking it to a bike shop or to a dealer. And you're learning more about yourself. Your life is full of challenges and different experiences. And sometimes when you think outside of the box, you start, as they say, peeling the onion back, and you're revealing all these things about yourself. Since you've taken this journey, what have you learned about you?
That's a great question. Um, I've learned that so far I've proven to myself that anything that I put my mind to, I could actually achieve. And for a while, that that wasn't clear for me. There was a point in my life after high school, graduate. I'm 25 now. But after graduating and moving out at 19, I moved from the Bay Area. I moved out here to LA. And the point in time where I just didn't feel like I took enough pictures of myself. I felt like I didn't go anywhere. I had never left the state of California, let alone the country. And I never, and I was about to be 25 years old and I had never left the state, never seen nothing, never been out of, further than LA, from the Bay Area. LA to the Bay, that's like Houston to Texas. I mean, that's like Houston to Dallas. They're not that far away from each other. Uh, For you to say you've only stayed in Texas and the furthest you've been from Houston is Dallas,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to put into example. Like, bro, you got to get out. You got to go see the world. You got to go do something. And I say, um, doing just that, being being a better person, wanting to be a better person. There was a time in my life where I, I felt like I lost everything that I had, and you know, I was homeless, and I was the only person to blame but myself. I couldn't blame nobody else for the position I was but myself, and it just like I talked about me wanting to ride, I just didn't. Wasn't the right time. When I wanted to ride, I didn't have the money to go ride. I didn't have the money, let alone for an apartment, let alone for a car to sleep out of. But I wanted to ride. Yeah, I had that ambition in me, but I kept that in me, knowing that what I'm working towards, knowing what I wanted, knowing I was gonna work my way and get me an apartment. I'm gonna work these two jobs. I'm gonna save up and get me an apartment. Yeah, I bought me a car, and then that car broke down. Then I got another car, that car broke down. And then I said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna just go and shoot for this bike, and this bike is gonna be my only mode of transportation. And I went through this plethora every other month. I mean, every other week. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get this. No, I think I'm gonna get this. No, I think I'm gonna get the Honda Shadow. No, I think I'm gonna go with a sport bike. No, I think I'm gonna do the Cruiser every other week while I was saving up. And when I finally got out of being homeless and finally got my first apartment, and it still took me about a year of holding that apartment down and having trouble with these cars and getting back and forth to those two jobs that got me out of homelessness. I was trying to hold those two jobs down, but man, having transportation was the thing. And, I accepted. I was like, you know what? You did this while you were homeless on the bus. You're going to have to do it without a car, save up on this bus, and get you that bike on the best way you know how, riding that goddamn bus back and
Mm-hmm.
forth, getting to work, them two jobs, saving up every penny. I bought that motorcycle helmet. I came home every day. I'd watch videos. I'd watch GQ and his road trips, and I'm like, I knew that's when I kind of knew. Because at first I'd watch different content creators and sport bike guys and go fast. So like my inspiration changed with the YouTubers I was watching until I found GQ's channel and I was like, yeah, I want a Harley. That's what I want to do, but I can't afford no big old Harley yet. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go the Sportster route. I seen a lot of videos on YouTube about maintenance, and how to do, brake changes and oil changes and stuff. So I was like, there's a lot of tutorial videos on this bike. I feel like a lot of people would say it's a solid, reliable bike. I found one. I'm like, I'm gonna go check. I checked out a lot of bikes before I went and bought one. I said that I went to different dealerships, and I met different people on Facebook Marketplace. I checked out sport bikes. I checked out different metric cruisers, Suzuki's, Hondas, and I ended up just finding that one that was perfect for me. And I feel like I said, it ties into like everything. Like I said, when I had the vision and I knew what I was working towards, but back then I didn't see it. Now I see that everything that I said I would do and everything that I put my mind to, I made it happen. Like going to these places, doing this 7 states in 72 hours, having that idea, that crazy idea, like, okay, I only have a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I need to be back by Sunday night. Then sleep Friday morning, 3 a.m. How far can we go? And to do 3,300 miles and be back within, to be to work Monday morning, you know, like things like that, where at first it was just a plan 2 weeks ago, and then you actually go do it and you're coming back sitting at work like, dude, I did that. Like, whoa, like, and I want to go do it again. Now it's like, now I need to figure out how to make more money so I can do this, you know?
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean. And um, my you are my daughter's age. I have three daughters, and you all are young adults, and kind of at this impasse in your life on trying to find your place, your purpose. And it's hard out here. You're struggling with just your own identity and the struggles that you have personally, and you understand the value of having a job and money and what that affords you. Sometimes it's just hard trying to afford those things, as you've mentioned in your journey, keeping a roof over your head and being able to be responsible and for yourself, and knowing I need transportation, and then you want to go do these fun things and add hobbies to it, and you know what I'm saying, and relationships. All of these things require money. It requires time, it requires energy, it requires courage. And so many people are um, fear, in the lack of, I would say, belief that this thing can happen for you and that you can dream outside of that traditional box of just regular survival. People will tell you, you can't have fun. You know what I'm saying? You need to be responsible. You need to be an adult. And there are just some things that prioritize hobbies, and those little fun things that you want to do on the side. But what I want to do is applaud you, Isiah, for taking those struggles in your life and living through those things and dreaming outside of the box and having that desire within yourself to know that this is the thing that you wanted to do, not be sure, not completely certain on how to do it, but still working towards that. And now it's come to fruition for you. And now you have a whole YouTube channel. You've got a whole Instagram. You got I'm so in those moments where you were thinking about when things were low in your life, you can go back and refer to these videos and look at what you've accomplished. Because unfortunately in life, we're just living. We're just trying to survive. And we don't ever really get an opportunity to say, I did that. Like you just mentioned, to go back and, man, I was having a hard time, or I didn't have anybody. I had to do a lot on my own. And you can go back and look at all of this. And on the same note, you can encourage people like myself and people of all walks of life and ages, male, female. They can be inspired. I'm inspired by what you're doing.
Thank,
And it's positive. You know what I'm saying?
thank you, thank you.
You're
And
welcome. And I just want you to know that, because, life is hard. Life is hard.
and we going through this thing called life together.
Man, I'm telling you.
Uh,
I'm telling you.
uh,
But it's very inspirational, everything that you're doing. I've enjoyed just watching what you're doing, and I'm learning a lot, like your Slab City video, and the fact that you're doing it with your girlfriend. Sometimes you don't have a group of people to do things with. You know what
Right,
I'm saying? You're either going to do it solo, or you're going to sit around and try to wait on somebody to do it with you.
right,
Um or maybe you are lucky to have a companion. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's great that you and your girlfriend have something that you all can share, because even in relationships, you got to have some things in common. Not everything, some things in common. And I'm glad that both of you have this. You have each other. She seems to enjoy it as much as you do. She's
oh
funny.
man, she does.
She's funny, and I enjoy watching her as well, just being a backpack. And that's even interesting, being the backpack, and you're not doing everything, but as a backpack, you've got a responsibility, and you have to enjoy that.
Right.
You know what I'm
No,
saying?
we have a lot of jobs on these road trips, and that's why it's sad because it's like I have her with me right next to me if you don't mind.
This is your podcast. I
Uh,
don't mind. You bring in whoever
uh,
you want to.
I'd like to introduce Alondra, the woman behind the motorcycle, the woman that makes all these vlogs possible. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for her on these long road trips, there's no way I could have done a lot of these trips on my own. Well, I'll say I just couldn't imagine it being done without her. You know, I'd like you to say a little something, introduce yourself,
Hi.
and
Hello and welcome, welcome. I'm glad to have both of you here and like I said, you what you all are doing is very very inspirational. And as a couple, the one thing, when you're in a relationship, you have to have something that not just loving one another. You have to be able to enjoy doing things with one another. Sometimes getting out of your comfort zone. And I'm going to tell you something. Riding a motorcycle with your partner on the road with however many hours, the distance, that's a test. You
Yeah.
know, not
We
just
know.
yeah, man, not just for yourself, but for each other. And I love watching both of you, your interactions. And again, it looks like you're having a good time. It looks like you're learning and you're developing and you're growing. So yeah, let's hear from you. How is it for you on this journey as well?
Um, it's fun and it's different, because you don't have the chance to do this every time, and especially like with your partner. So it's fun. It's exhausting waking up early, 3, 4 in the morning, being on the bike for 19 hours, 18 hours, only stopping for gas and to use the restroom, not eating big meals, dealing with each other's attitudes. Cause I'm tired, cause he's tired, cause cold, cause he's cold. You know, it's a lot. It's a challenge, but like when you come back home, like it makes you realize how strong both of you guys could be together. You know?
Exactly. 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 It's definitely a testament. It's
but I will add, not to cut you off,
no, go ahead.
that that I never really given her like that that real road trip experience. It's always been something super extreme. I've only ever taken her on these like extreme, oh, we got to get here and here, and we only have this much time. I've never taken her on like, a 5, 6 day to a week vacation where, okay, today we're just going to do a light, 300, 400 miles. We're going to go check this place out over here, and then we'll maybe ride to this state and we'll take our time getting there. No, it's always extreme. We're gonna be okay today. We're gonna be on the bike for 19 hours, and then yeah, like we're gonna go see the Grand Canyon. Even though we're gonna be back at the hotel at 2 a.m., we're still gonna go see it. But then
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have to wake up at 6 in the morning so we could. Even though we just got back to the hotel, we gotta get back up in 4 more hours so we can go ride another 8 hours. Like that's all she knows right now because I've never been able to like really take her on like a chill, relaxed, romantic road trip. And I wanted to do something like that this summer, but unfortunately,
Well, it's unfortunately.
well, it's not. It's very good news, actually. Unfortunately for her,
Mm-hmm.
she's pregnant.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
Y'all heard it first here, y'all. Congratulations. Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations. It isn't unfortunate, but
Well,
that is
it's
so
unfortunate.
cool.
We had so much planned for this summer.
Yes.
Like we wanted to get into like,
the Mexico to Canada road
yeah,
trip.
we
Like,
were trying to do streaming. We were trying to like
I can't do
be
it
more
without her.
be more
Yeah.
open to what he could do, like coming up with these ideas and bringing them up to reality.
Yeah.
It was just something we were both like on the same page. We're like, yeah, like, we're gonna do this, and yeah, we're gonna go big. And now it's just like a layback, And in March was my birthday. This was
Uh-huh.
before we just found out maybe like this could be the second week.
Yeah,
Wow.
But back in March, I was already saving up for I could take my course, for I could get my motorcycle and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So it's just a pause,
That's it. That is, you know what?
a long pause.
It's a pause. It's a pause. There just transitions in life, you can't. There's some things you can plan for, some things you can. Then you have the surprises, just like these trips that you that you do. Yours is is kind of like a gauntlet, if you will. So or like that movie Rat Race, trying to get somewhere quick. Um, but that's life, and I'm glad you all are bringing in a life. I mean, I'm gonna tell you something. There's I'm sure there's something you all can do. It's just gonna so that you can continue doing the travels in the manner in which you want to. You just have to, I guess, be creative, I guess, in this regard. But bringing this your new bundle of joy into this world, you guys are fun. So the baby will never be bored, and they'll be able to have the cool parents until they're able to ride. And who knows, you could get you a bike, and when the baby's old enough, the baby can go on trips with you. Of course, hopefully it's not a baby, but you know what I mean. um but yeah, this is just a pause, and this is just gonna give you all an opportunity to rethink and reimagine what your channel is going to be from here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But yeah, congrats. And just in case the people didn't hear, can we get your name again? I want to make sure people know who you are.
So I'm Alondra, and on Instagram, I'm at Yo Babe Landra.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited for you all. I'm excited for this next journey. I'm excited for what your channel is about to be, both of yours. And I really I've been inspired, like I said, with everything that you've done thus far. It's been encouraging for me. I'm a newbie writer as well, and I'm planning and hoping that my first road trip will be a great experience for me. And I want you both to continue to do what you're doing, continue to be the team that you are, um, and continue to enjoy as much about each other and learning yourself and this new journey that you'll have, and in parenting. Um, the things don't have to stop. You just kind of have to change them up a bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's been a pleasure meeting both of you, and I don't want to hold you guys all forever. But what I do want to do is, first off, I want everyone to know where to find you. I know that your plans have changed up a little bit, but if there's anything that you want the people to know about, um, announcements, anyone you want to thank, shout out, this is your opportunity, and I'm gonna shut up and let y'all do it.
All right. So once again, my name is Isiah, also known as Twigz. You can find me on social media on Instagram at Who is Twigz. You can find me on YouTube at Twigz on Two Wheels. Um, Make sure when you follow me to sign up for the More Miles Club to enter in this month's giveaway. Um, I would also like to shout out Jesus and Harley. Shout out to my boy Sam. He's a real good people. Check out his page. We do have some a little pin in our plans this summer, but we have some big plans and some big trips coming soon. Be Stay tuned. I have a video dropping for Slab City. We went camping in Slab City, and we are doing the live stream thing. So that's gonna happen still this summer. We're gonna get that going. We're trying to bridge the gap between motovlogging and IRL streaming. So look forward to seeing your boy on YouTube Live riding his bike. There are some things we're working out for is checking, making sure everything is safe, making sure I'm not, reading the chat while I'm riding. We'll work that thing out. But for the most part, I look forward to help bridge that gap and being able to hopefully live stream in the next coming months.
All right.
Well,
Well,
and I'd like to formally thank you for having me on your podcast. Thank you for the opportunity.
well, you are welcome, and I'd like to thank you, both of you, for accepting the invitation and giving me this opportunity to share your journey, your experiences with my audience. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing the channel thrive.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on.
You are so welcome. We've come to the close of another episode of the End User Talk podcast. I hope that what you've heard today will leave you feeling empowered. Thank you for listening. And remember, every day's a training day.